And it's now time for the last panel discussion for the day, which will be on the topic Key Data Center Technologies Shaping the Indian Data Center of the Future. And for this, I'd like to welcome Mr. Subhamkar Das, Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer, Data Center Fund Kotak Investment Advisors, to be the moderator. And I welcome the panelists, Mr. Ramachandra Nimbargi, Head Data Center Design Larsen and Toubro, Mr. Suppan Sarvanathan, Director of Operations Asia Pacific, Iron Maintained Data Centers, Mr. Srinivasulu Thayam, CTO Aravind Eye Hospitals and Orotech. Over to you, Mr. Das.
Thank you. Thank you. So quickly, morning when I came, it was like BYOC, bring your own chair. Now I see a lot of chairs empty. Anyway, so maybe we have to request Naveen to serve the refreshments and drinks here only to get the crowd. So my name is Subhamkar Das. I am the Executive Director and Chief Operations Officer of Kotak Data Center Fund. I have been in the data center industry for the past 25 years in various roles. Have been in the product company like Tata Libert Emerson, worked in enterprise IT companies like IBM and Hewlett Packard, worked with service providers, co-location service providers like Nextra. And right now I have moved to a financial role, first of its kind maiden data center fund, Kotak Data Center Fund, focusing on the data center industry in India. So that's my brief introduction, and I would like to introduce each one of the other eminent panelists here before we embark on the panel discussion. RC?
Good evening. I think I see only few chairs are empty, but it's still good to see. I was in Mumbai a few months ago. By the time, I always had a second session as a panel discussion, but when I see it, hardly people sitting in bunches. But it's good to see in Chennai. It's good spirit. Thank you for being here for so long and for the last session. My name is Ramachandra. My full name is Ramachandra Nimbargi, and I am with Larsen and Toubro as heading the data center design. And my association with data center and the critical facility has been for a very long time. I'm very new in L&T, and I know Subhamkar Das from the days when we were looking at a small server rooms. Now we are talking about multi-megawatt data centers. So it's been only a 6-month journey in L&T. Prior to that, I was in Schneider Electric for about 20 years, and 15 years in India, some about 8 years in New Zealand and Australia. So I'm responsible today to actually help customers to build their sustainable data centers in India. Having said that, the good topic is about how future data center would look like, so that will be a good discussion today. So yeah, that's me, and I'll hand it over to my next panelist. Thank you.
Vanakkam. Good evening to all. I'm Suppan Saravanamuthu, Director of Operations for Asia Pacific in Iron Mountain Data Center. I think you all heard about the Iron Mountain Data Center because now we are very much growing very faster and rapidly. We have presently 6 live data centers in India, and one is going to be in Chennai and one is in Mumbai is going to start the projects. We are also working out on the digitalization as well as the something like connecting the pearls in India, something like starting from Mumbai, Delhi, Calcutta, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, and back to Mumbai. So the only place which we never start to work it on the Calcutta only, that part I think the management also working out for that. Prior to Iron Mountain Data Center, I worked for Singapore Airlines, Singapore Singtel Data Center, and I'm the facility manager for the proud to say that old beautiful airport, Changi Airport, Terminal 2. I'm the facility manager there for 3 years prior to the data center. I manage Iron Mountain Data Center, Credit Suisse Global Switch in both Singapore and Hong Kong, and Telin Data Center too. But basic thing, I started my career in Chennai because I'm from Pudukkottai. I started my career with Dhanalaxmi Enterprises and work in Integrated Property Management Services Limited. I think most of the people know because they are the first something like competed with CBRE and JLL when we started the career at 2004 in Chennai itself. Then 2006 I went to Singapore, and presently until now I'm working in Singapore, but I'm heading the whole Asia Pacific Yeah, that's about me.
Thank you. It's like Pudukkottai in the Saravanan. Good evening to everyone. Okay. My name is Srini. I head the IT division for Aravind Eye Care. You all must be aware of. And it's the world's largest eye hospital, okay, covering 20,000 patients in a day and 2,000 surgeries in a day. And apart from that, 3,000 teleconsultancy we do in a day, actually. So that shows how much data we maintain. Okay, so that's the critical. And of course, from my side, I was around the world for the last 20 years, almost all the countries, working for IBM. And since he was talking about Singapore, in fact, I was part of implementation of the plateau for, entire virtual learning for all the pilots, for the entire Singapore Airlines. Okay, so that's something. So that was the first, virtual learning platform implemented across all, Singapore Airlines, and of course, implemented a complete telecom system in Malaysia from the scratch to, it took almost 4 years. So a lot of, big engagements. Fortunate to be part of that, and fortunate to be part of this session as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction of the panelists. This is the last session, and rightfully we can actually conclude by talking about the key data center technologies shaping the Indian data center of the future. So few trends which comes to my mind before I open it to the panel. If you look at what was being discussed from the morning, rise of ransomware attacks. So what is trending today is a zero trust security model, a zero trust security data center. So that's one of the trends which is very evident. Obviously, software-defined data center infrastructure. More importantly, AI-augmented automated data center. So that's another trend which I could see. Hybrid environment, most of the speakers spoke about, both vertically, data center to cloud, both vertically and also horizontally. So right from the facility to, to the server, storage, network, both sides it is happening. So hybrid environment is another trend. Solid state storage in terms of specific equipment, solid state storage is also another key trend is what is emerging. Edge computing with AI ML on top of it and data center infrastructure management, because it's edge, everything has to collate and come. That's another important trend. And last but not the least, obviously sustainability in all its entirety, right from the efficiency of the data centers in terms of, we have many matrices like PUE, etc. But more importantly now, the CUE, the carbon usage, zero. We had a lot of sessions on sustainability, so that's also, I think, emerging as, if not the most important, among the most key important thing, and especially from investors, especially from the end customer perspective. So some of these important trends is what we are going to examine further in this session and have a kind of a conclusion on what is going to shape up the data centers in India. So RC, how do data centers need to change going forward? That's I think a question.
I think it's a very easy and $1 million question, right? Since morning, we have been hearing about the data is everywhere. Data is in terms of enormous amount of explosion in terms of how it is to be stored, wherever it is generated, connected, accessed. So data is big, which is going to actually, which we all know, right? So it has to be somewhere in the data center. It has to be accessed. So what I'm going to do, what Subhamkar said, he also made some notes, and I also made some notes. I thought, let me be a little constructive here so that I've made some notes here. So what I'm going to talk about is that the challenge which Indian data centers will see, so I think I'll see it from a 4 to 5 perspective. One is the growth and the scalability matter, right? Now, I will come and touch upon these 3 things, scalability and growth. The next will be the sustainability. When you grow, you're in a pace of, matching the requirement, supply and demand and everything. So you should not forget what we are actually using from in this world, right? So sustainability is very, very important, which is a part of energy efficiency. How do you achieve that? So the next point which I will talk about is the edge data center. The point of use, how so much of data is created, where it is stored, how it is stored, why is it required, what kind of edge data centers are available. And now it looks like it's very simple right now, but I'll tell you, from my opinion, it's personal opinion, that we haven't really been hit by the edge data center evolution right now. And we are all talking about it. So it will come in, so let's be prepared. And the next one which I will talk about is basically on the remote management and the security. Security is very big. We talked about IT layer of security, right? So everything resides, all the IT resides on the infrastructure where I live for all my life. So how important is that? So then last but not the least is, there's something which is climate change. It's something which is hitting us in the infrastructure world. So how do we cope up with that? So these are the points I will talk about. Quickly, I'll touch upon all these points. The first thing which I talked about was the scalability. Now, we all know there are two ways of scaling. One is the business as usual, where the CAGR is about 12%, how the data center is growing, and edge is growing about 23.9. So that's the growth pattern which we are seeing in the world, right? So when the scalability comes in, the growth also comes pretty fast, it changes us. So when you do a scalability matter in the design, I think many people talked about mine is a 30 megawatt data center. We are also building as a 30 megawatt data center. Each floor is 6 megawatt, blah, blah, blah. But how well do you do a growth which is normal for business as usual? You will do it. Whether it is 24 months or 12 months, you will build it and give it to customer. And I was also told that hyperscalers come and say, I need it in 1 month, but the next week they'll come and say, I need it in the next week. So there are ways and means of doing it. But however, there's something which we also need to see is the spike growth. The growth which is basically coming because of this data which is getting churned. The smart data, the ML, the machine learning, and the AI. And also the HPCs. I think somebody talked about 150 GB is a space required for a human being data to be stored. Imagine, we are the number one, right? 1.25 billion or 1.4 billion. So at least if we reach, whatever percentage, the amount of data storage happens is huge. So this is what we see in today, the change in cooling technology and all those things. So that is where it's going to hit us. So we need to not just prepare ourselves for the business as usual, but for the spike growth, which is, it's possible. There are a lot of other solutions available today from an infrastructure perspective. Definitely from an IT, I'm sure since morning everybody spoke about it. I'm sure the panelists here also can talk about it. So that's on. Let me not take too much time, but I'll talk about it very quickly. Second most important thing, when we're talking about this spike growth, the sustainability matter should not be left behind. If you're not talking about sustainability, you're not a part of orchestra. You're in a different pitch. Not just because everybody's singing, but we also need to have, how do you achieve that, right? So ESG barometers, everybody's actually putting it on their website saying that I'm so green in so many other ways, whether it is circular economy, waste management, and various so and so forth. But practically where I want to touch upon is the energy efficiency. As long as you're installing something in your system, which is energy guzzling, whether it is cooling or power or whatever it is, the most important is to use how efficient your systems are. One thing which I really appreciate, one of the hyperscalers in Chennai, they're installing with a new refrigerant, a new type of refrigerant which is very difficult to get into market today. We still talk about R134A, but they are talking about 1234Y and ZE and various other things. So those are the one thing. And second thing, Equinix, somebody talked about saying that elevated temperature. So these are the smaller steps, but to reach there, right? So that's the energy efficiency model. And adoption of alternative energy, which is reliable, renewable energy. Somebody talked about today again saying that incentive is there. But today, government hasn't got anything which is strict onto us saying that this is how we should run. In Australia, the buildings of data centers are called as neighbors. So they have got a 4-star rating, 5-star rating. So it is here in India, IGBC, but there is no incentive. Nobody's going to do it. My son also does the same thing. Unless I tell him that I'll give you this, he doesn't want to do it. So that's precisely where I see it from my side. Sorry, sir, I'm taking a bit of time, but the third thing which is big is the edge data center. As I know I used to work for Schneider. So we talked about smaller edge, which is the telco, which is at the point of use wherever the phones, 5G and things coming in, and then the bandwidth. So all those things are telecom edges, and then the enterprise edge. Enterprise edge is something which is, you call it as a local edge, and the regional, which will start from probably 50 kilowatt container solutions to a very large one, up to 5 to 6 megawatt. Today, most of our co-location guys are into this. Why? Because there is a market, but only thing is India is an early adoption. We are a little smart enough, right? Let's do the maths on the paper first and see who first goes there in the market, right? So that much is there. It's going to hit us right now. When we do an edge strategy, whether it is manufacturing or the colos, what we need is an ecosystem. It is unlike your big data centers which we build multiple megawatts, because it needs to be designed, standardized, maintained, and also have a partner ecosystem. So it doesn't work with only one company. So you have to have a partnership with the good companies where you have a right ecosystem. And definitely, the one thing which I always talk about is the physical infrastructure. When long back, I was told the data center was brought down because of easily somebody could get into your Modbus and open system, and you can actually bring down your infrastructure, switch off chiller, switch off this. But today we moved from 485 to IP-based and all those things. But look at it from an IT perspective. They talk about data security, this encryption level, SSL level. I think that kind of level of improvement is required. I'm sure it is there. It is there in the pipeline for many companies like Schneider's and the Honeywell who make the aggregators and all. But definitely that's the point to be thought of on the security part. But last but not the least, if you have heard, in London, the Google and the Oracle data centers switched off. I'm sure you would have heard that news. Why? Because the temperature went so high, the cooling units could not sustain. Amazon went off. I mean, half the Europe, which was running WordPress, went down. Why? Because it is what we know. Climate change, we talk about sustainability and all, but these are the extreme weathers. Today in India, I see, if somebody is building a data center in Mumbai, they say N is equal to 20, it's 41.4 degrees, let's do the chillers, let's do the DG, diesel generator. But if you see that, how you install, where it is installed, definitely temperatures are much higher. If you are ever going to install and run the data center 100%, I put my job saying that it's not going to run. It's going to run short of capacity. So these are the extreme conditions which we need to look at. So these are all the challenges. That is why we need to look at, as an organization in L&T, we have got certain way of doing these things. I'm sure industry consultants or customers are also very smart enough and very knowledgeable, and they will definitely get into this. So these are the challenges which I see in my personal view, and this is where we need to go, Subhamkar. So I'm sorry I've taken a bit of a time, but I was given
absolutely.
6 minutes.
Absolutely okay. So, Sara, what role will technology play, in this journey of data centers? You are managing data centers across, right, from Iron Mountain, yeah, so it's one of the largest.
I can share that, but before that, I can tell most of the things was covered by Asi and you already. I think, it's most of the things are covered, but I can go depth on the sustainability first. Because now, from the starting from morning onwards until now, everybody is talking about the sustainability. How we really going to say clean green energy, or as a green planet, or something like as a carbon neutral by 2030. Most of the data center providers in this global, they already committed that we are going to be a carbon neutral by 2030. How they are going to achieve all these things? Some like Google, Amazon, everybody started to do, and now they are reporting as a yearly, monthly, even some people, something like Iron Mountain, we are reporting the PUE level as hourly. So this is the one, because if there is any PUE in Singapore or in US, if there is anything more than that design or more than that committed, it will give an alarm to everybody, so that the people will think about, hey, our PUE is going up. So these kind of things, why they are working out is because of the sustainability. So even in Singapore, example, if you take it as a Singapore, when we designed the data center, it was for 1.45, but when I took over the data center, it was 1.6. But now I'm maintaining 1.44 with only by the human, by the operations teams. So what we think, and the management thought is, why not we can go with 1.4? So this year, they gave me the PUE, as per the sustainability portion, they gave me to reduce the PUE to 1.4. I thought that because we already peel off, skin off all the ideas, because I'm also holding the Singapore Certified Energy Manager. We tried and do all the waste. There are normally 3 things in energy efficiency. Removal of wastes. We need to identify all the wastages. If you stop that, you can save at least 10%. Then optimization of the parameters. Third thing is replacing with the energy efficient equipments or materials. So the two things we no need cost. It's only from the operation manager or operation director or anybody from the top management process, we can go ahead with that. So by doing this, I can able to get 1.45 PU in my Sin1 data center. It's reporting every hourly to my global sustainability also. But they give me as a KPI as 1.4. So I talked to some of the technology. That's what the technology coming in AA. So I talked to the Singapore, one of the technology people. They came and study. They can try to get it by 1.4 by implementing the digital twin. I think now everybody will start to hear this word DT, digital twin. Because of the AA getting more and more, so they want to use back how the data which getting from the artificial intelligence or BMS anything, then how they can analyze and system itself automatically change your parameters or give the signal to you or to the operation team to go and regulate or manage the parameters. So by doing this, I'm going to get 1.4. Now I'm in the testing bed. Hopefully within another 1 or 2 months, I can get 1.4. Why I'm telling this is, I think morning somebody shared that Singapore has the moratorium for the data center. You know what is the reason? The main reason is for the Singapore government already signed something with the Paris Agreement for the climatic change. So because of our data center energy, more consumption, within around 3 to 4% of the Singapore power, so they want to reduce the energy consumption since they signed for the Paris Agreement. So they are now working out to reduce the energy consumption. So they put up the moratorium and finally they approved for 60 megawatt. There was a CFA which is going on. You know, the pre-request for the CFA to participate is you have to show the data center design 1.3. Then only you are able to participate in the CFA. Even Iron Mountain, not only Iron Mountain, Equinix, most of the data center providers have participated. We are just waiting for the result. If anybody get that 60 megawatt DC in Singapore, that's a golden, something like a golden egg. Because in Singapore, there was no space now available. Even in my DC, I don't have even a single kilowatt to sell. If I get that 60 megawatt or 20 megawatt or 40 megawatt, then Iron Mountain business, as well as anybody who is getting that business, is getting that golden egg. Why I'm sharing this is now the whole global is working out on the sustainability to get to support on the climatic change. But I urge you all, I think it has to come from everybody's mind, not only to the top management or not to the operation team. Everybody have to think about the temperature, how much we can save. Even if you save 1 kilowatt hour in your house, offing the switching of the lights or reducing increasing your temperature and stopping water to usage. Even sometimes, as a guys, we are telling you, when you do the saving, sometimes we open up the tap and do. But if you do this in Singapore, we are practicing, we are putting in the mug and do this kind of savings because I think we have to preserve the planet also. So this is what I want to share with the sustainability. Already edge data center, there are new things is going on, but now because the reason being why they are going with the edge data center is a low level of latency and they need lot of data to be processed. So something like I say electrical buses or something like automated things, they want their data center to be very near us so that they can get the process very fast and the latency will be lesser. Most of the, AWS as well as American Towers is closely working out on this edge data center. Even Iron Mountain also has a plan. We are also working with some of the companies for this edge data center. Third thing I want to highlight is the remote management, which I think you heard about, because data center is very capital intensive and everybody now, the customer want everything to be the alarm. Even I'm also holding 2 mobiles. One is for personal and one is for office. We cannot sleep, we have to keep this mobile for 24/7 because even each and every seconds of losing in redundancy or losing in the power or anything, it will make a lot of thousands of dollars penalty as well as SLA. Not only the money, it's an image for the company also. So we have to keep everything automated. At least before the issue come, at least we can put up a setup, something like a alarm, temperature alarm. We can, if our SLA is 27, we can put it 26, we can receive the message. At least we can preempt the maintenance team, what's happening there. So these are all the things, these are all the 3 technologies majorly which you are going to face in future data centers in India.
No, thanks. See, we have been hearing about from the facilities side, from the IT side. Srini, if we can hear about the kind of innovations which will take us to the future of the Indian data center, what do you feel about it? Your views on the IT side
how it is panning out.
Sure. Let me share some of the stories, lessons learned from our own Aravind perspective. Okay, so Aravind is built, it's like a necessity of, innovation. The mother of necessity is innovation, right? So, if you see our philosophy is technology is always for purpose, for a common man, and to reach unreachable people. That's our, because if you see, the way we, and we always take a risk of, typically in healthcare sectors are a bit conservative to move towards new technology. Okay, it's like they see like, if the technology is stable, then they kind of utilize. But whereas in Aravind, we always take a risk, okay, implementing the technology first actually. So we were the first to be like, we have moved to cloud 7 to 8 years back. And we built our own EMR 6 to 7 years back, our own EMR. Okay, even today, biggest hospital don't have an EMR, electronic medical record. So for us, the innovation is built as being part of our culture actually. That's way like in our founder, like, thought, like, when, 20 years back, typical the intraocular lens, we used to import, we used to import from US, used to cost $1,500. And he thought like, a common man is not affordable to buy intraocular lens, right? So then he thought like, why can't we build? So we built the entire setup. Today the cost is 6,000 to 7,000 rupees. So we built and we are exporting it. Okay. So at same time, if you see, the purpose also like, we need to see how this can be optimized, to, meet the common man need. So in Aravind Hospital, if you see like, the consultation fees is 100 rupees. You can come 3 times, okay? So irrespective of whoever it is. So our goal is, the cloud cost, because we are in a cloud, right? So the way, after we went cloud, like, there's an additional cost, okay? So the way we kind of leadership decided, like, how you're going to optimize the cost, okay? So we decided, like, by patient, okay? So we came around, like, 11 rupees per patient. So then we had a target, can we make it 7 rupees? We achieved. Then we kind of again reset our target, 5 rupees. And today we are standing 3 rupees. And now the target is for 1 rupee. Okay, so, our target is, we don't want to impact our patient. We wanted to maintain whatever, the patient is paying and how we can fine tune. So that's where the innovation comes. So what we did, we started fine tuning the entire cloud, moving to open source tools, moving to, instead of static IP, we moved. So, we did the whole, kind of innovation as a part of the, cloud optimization. Okay, so, what we believe always, the technology growth, every technology will have its own impacts. But, but we need to find alternative ways. Today we talk about energy consumption, okay? We use wind power, completely. Our entire hospitals are running on wind power. And we pay back electricity, we give the electricity back to the, so the innovation is a critical thing, okay? And coming back to the data center again, the way I because the way we use cloud is normally other way. Typically people use, critical application on-prem and, non-critical cloud, but we use another way. We use critical application in the cloud, non-critical application in on-prem, so that we save cost. Doesn't mean that we compromise the security. We, because we work with, Google and, we do a lot of innovation, with the Google in that perspective. Now coming back to the data center, like my view, coming back to your question, there are 4 ways, okay, that I look into it. One is your data center ecosystem, electricity, the whole thing, sustainability, okay. Then core data center. And then the logistics, the logistics, like, your computing power and all those things. The 4th one is your resources, people, okay. So the first one, and today, if you see, like, the first one, the ecosystem. Our colleagues spoke about a lot. I mean, effective power usage, EPU, right? PU, power usage effectiveness. In Shanghai today, they have a rule, you need to build a data center, PU is less than 1.3. Okay, so if your PU is, PU, right? What is power given to the data center, what has been consumed? Okay, ideally it should be 1. It should be 1, okay? But now, cities like Shanghai, they say like it should be less than 1.3. Otherwise, your data center cannot, you are not allowed to set up. And again in Singapore, there's a constraint of space. They put on, they said like, you cannot build new data center. Okay, so again, in Europe, if you see, they've kind of put a law now towards, green data center. Okay, so I think we have seen all the, here, typical, the traditional air chilled, the PU is 1.8 to 2. So we need to move towards, the liquid-based or immersion-based systems, which can reduce to 1.3 to 1.2. So there's no other option for us now, actually. So we have to change, okay? And if you see, there are very good use cases, like, where there are effective AI tools being used to monitor. So Google has reduced 40% of energy by using effective AI and ML, algorithms, okay, in the last 1 year, okay? So we need to use all these tools and, how we can effectively reduce the carbon emission, because today, the global, if you see, the overall electricity is being produced, 10% is consumed by data centers. And there is a target, by 2017, it has to be 0, consumption actually. And by 2030, it should be reduced 45%. Okay, so we have to find these innovation technologies, and there will be always challenges, like, but we have to find innovative challenges. And now we have a great opportunity to use AI and ML. Coming back to core data center, okay. Core data center, the way I look at 3 things. One is, okay, your automation, okay, and agility, okay. Basically agility. Today, the entire world is moving towards digitalization. So digitalization required modernization. Okay, so in the modernization, if you see, particularly in Aravind, if you see, we get a lot of crowd on Mondays and Saturdays. We get almost double. What we do, the previous day we dump the CPU. We increase the CPU. And the evening, we again reduce the CPU. Okay, so we reduce half. So we need to have an agility to have a, to support the infrastructure. Okay, then scalability. Okay, you need to ensure, like, of course, these are all, again, you need to have your, one is DevOps and your CI/CD, okay? Then your, kind of the API-based, communication. Because in organization, you will have multiple systems, and you need to have a very simple API-based communication so that you will be able to configure, easily, like, to support agility requirements. So now, this is one side on the overall the core, and more on the production side, the way it's going to be future. As my colleague mentioned, like, remote management. So in the future, it is going to be a completely A and ML based. So the way it is going to be, these tools will optimize by themselves, and it should be self-configurable, predictable. That's the way your production monitoring should be, actually. I mean, you cannot have a manual efforts. What they say, like, your people, your resources are expensive than softwares. So your software should have, all these software-defined networks, software-defined deployment. So CCDs, DevOps, we have to go. There is no other option. When so in the future, it is going to be, since we are in a chat GPT era, the AI and ML is going to consume, kind of 3 times of data processing power than current. So in that case, you need to have the tools efficiently, okay? Third one is on the, particularly during COVID, we realized there's a lot of challenge in the supply chain, okay? We went through a lot of semiconductor shortfall on all those things. Now, I think, countries are kind of realized they need to have an indigenous manufacturing to come out of these challenges actually. And you might have seen Tamil Nadu government is coming out with the, Make in Tamil Nadu. That is something great initiative where they wanted to set up a semiconductor, in Tamil Nadu actually. It's like in Make in India, we're going to have a Make in Tamil Nadu. I think we all need to be proud enough to, support that actually. Okay. So they're going to come out with Make in Tamil Nadu to have our own indigenous semiconductor setup actually. So this is going to be a game changer in going forward. Last, the resources. We need to kind of, it's going to be a completely different ballgame going forward. Okay, so we need to be equipped with the latest technology and AI and ML based, and typical conservative skills will not going to be work at all actually. Okay, I see these are all the way it is going to be in future actually.
So in the interest of time, I thought of asking few more questions, but in the interest of time, we'll possibly have to conclude. If there are any questions from anybody, maybe 2-3 minutes.
Mike, please.
Thank you, sir. You're talking about the blueprint or the scenario for Indian data center. Central policy is there. All the state governments are coming out with their own policies. Most of them are tweaking on the tax benefits, stamp duty concession, and those kind of things. Are we really addressing the core issue of technology and building those capability through these policy measures?
So what we are, I'll just take this quickly. See, what we are doing is we are touching MEITI. See, the country is a federal structure, right? So the states are empowered, and we have 5-6 states who have come up with policies. You are right, primarily SOPs, more of that. But we are, the Digital Data Protection Bill is going to be put in the monsoon session of the Parliament, which is going to have a big bearing. But to your question, people like us and our industry colleagues, we are lobbying with MEITI to come out with a comprehensive data center policy, pan-India, and from which the states are going to, draw their own. So this is a work in progress. I'm personally going to meet up with certain officials in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so if there are no other questions, just to conclude from the panel, some of the trends which came up was obviously the key trend. What I could pick up was sustainability, growth and scale up, which RC and Shri picked up, scalability and agility of the IT infrastructure, because that's what we are managing here. Edge data centers, obviously zero trust, security is paramount, and which is becoming even more important as the, as it progresses. Hybrid cloud environment, monitoring with AI. And the last point, what we discussed was on the supply chain side, because of the, the war and COVID, etc. There is a gap, and which I think the country rightfully is working on PLI and other things. We already have a semiconductor thing, right, with Vedanta, if I'm allowed to say. So, thank you all. Thank you to the panelists. Naveen, I think I finished before time. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Panelists. I think they all deserve a big round of applause, please. And I request Mr. Ramachandra Nimbargi to felicitate Mr. Subhamkar Das. And after the picture, I request Mr. Ramachandra Nimbargi.